Welcome back to the Cinema Condition with your host, filmmaker, and creator of the Nerdcore Podcast Network, Raul Alejandro Mendoza. And as always, we are back for another week with another guest as we talk about another movie. And this week I'm being joined by my wonderful friend making his return from season 1 when we talked about Emir Kusturica's Underground. That is none other than Charlie.
And now we have another isolating weird black comedy.
Yep. I can start pinpointing like the movies you really enjoy.
It takes time, but it's anything that scares me and is very deeply moving.
Yeah.
But also makes you laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey everyone, how's it going?
What's going on? Charlie's back, guys.
Unfortunately,
you may know Charlie from last season for that episode, or of course the guy who challenges the gain meter on my my mixer here, and I can tell that Charlie's talking because he goes.
Yeah, listen. I was trained as an actor in high school, so the one thing you get taught is to teach your voice how to carry. So I remember. Not they were like, does Charlie need a mic for this scene where he's addressing the entire audience? And everyone's like, no, he doesn't. He didn't.
No, he doesn't.
Of course not. And I woke people up when I had to do that scene, so that was always fun.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. This is now we are 24 years into quarantine. We are surviving solely on delivery robots, so that's cool. In a way, this is oddly this film that we watched is oddly apocryphal about doing jobs that you fucking hate to just get on with things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. How are you? How are you, Raul? Are you taking classes this semester?
Yes, sir. This is supposed to be my last semester at Undisclosed University that we both attend.
At school university.
We said on our we had a wonderful friends on our Royal Rumble watch along a week ago. He said just another wonderful day in Atlanta, Texas. So yeah, man. Been taking 2 classes. I'm taking an advanced nonlinear editing course, and I'm taking my last credit, which is my science credit I need to graduate.
That's me. I'm like a super senior taking an introductory geology course because
that's what I'm taking.
To do my. Yeah. Are you taking natural disasters too?
No, I'm taking physical geology.
Oh, with he has kind of like a funky name. He's like a young guy.
No, I'm putting it in the private chat for you before I Okay.
Oh no, not the guy I took it with. He's that one guy's like, I love beer, and I'm like, oh, you're like a pretty cool teacher. The guy that I have, he's funny.
Yeah, because I took chem in my first college, and they took that one, but I needed a second one. So
I need to go into my first college that I transferred from and get them to transfer my full transcript, because this is like the least interesting conversation we could be having right now.
Yeah.
But
watching any movies during quarantine, bro? I know last time we talked about quarantine.
I've watched a lot of movies in quarantine. I was keeping a list, and then I ended up sort of not maintaining that list as well as I should have. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I've quarantine has been like a wonderful time for media consumption for me. I've like played through video games that I've been meaning to play through for years. Mm-hmm. I've seen movies that I never thought I would see, just because of the time commitment. If I know that he'll listen to this episode when it comes out, but Andrew Norton, I'm calling you out. We are going to watch Showa in its entirety,
bro.
And I encourage everyone to do that at least once in their life. It is the best documentary ever made by humans.
Quarantine
you
has
seen
been
it?
no, I've never seen it, but I was gonna say quarantine is the best time to watch those long movies you've been putting off, guys. Watch
Exactly.
watch your Santangos, watch your
Watch watch an elephant sitting still. Watch your
yes,
painted birds.
yeah,
Watch Out One. I tried to watch parts of Out One. That was pretty.
until the end of the world.
Berlin Alexander plots, which is like 24 hours long. Just anything that you've been putting off for a long time, but especially Showa, because Showa
Yeah.
is masterful.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I'm really excited to have you on the show, and I'm thankful you're here, man, because it's always a fun time when you're here, and
Thank you,
I hope
Raul.
that you're doing well, bro. For those of you who may not know you, you want to reintroduce yourself again?
Yeah, so I'm Charlie. Raul and I met through film club at our university. I am a super senior now, I guess. I'm I'm about to be 25 years old, which is terrifying. You can find me online at KORKRLEN at pretty much anywhere. Corkarlen. It's another weird little movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm a history guy / film history guy. So.
Mm-hmm. I owe Charlie a lot of gratitude towards introducing me to a lot of different movies. What's it called? Charlie, yes, I shit you not, man. I told you. What's it called? Last year, Charlie introduced me to probably one of the most underrated directors I'll ever watch. I mean, Costa Rica. And
Yeah.
I've been shouting from the mountaintops, people, to watch these movies.
Yeah, he's modern day Fellini.
Yeah, modern day Fellini, bro.
With a completely different kind of trauma.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, his stuff is really incredible. It's amazing to see. I think I really want to get you into Aki Kaurismäki. I feel like you'd really actually enjoy Kaurismäki a lot.
Yeah.
But I recommended you.
Yeah.
And brought this forward, El Verdugo, the movie we're talking about today, because I really want to show you another movie.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I just showed you that movie, you would hate it when you sort of. You'll once you see all of the movies that I've brought forward collected into a single unified package, you'll begin to realize what a insufferable weirdo I am and what I've been trying to do for years, which is trying to convince people to watch movies that will eventually rot their brains to the point of being unable to comprehend anything.
Hey man, I am just glad that I get to share a space here with you and talk with you for about an hour. So,
Sure,
like we said 1,000 times on this show, doesn't matter whether I like the movie, doesn't matter whether I enjoyed it, doesn't matter whether I hate it.
I hope you like the movies I bring forward. Well, I never want to recommend something to someone that they walk away and they're like, "Oh, I hated that," which I have had happen. But I try to cater my recommendations based on personal taste and what I think people would like. I mean, I'm never going to I did just recommend people Showa, which is a 9-hour Holocaust documentary. So maybe I don't actually curate anything, and I just speak out of my ass all the time. So
yeah, but I was saying just it doesn't matter whether I enjoy it or not. This show is about discussing the movie's themes and stuff. So whether I like the movie or not, the movie has to have at least something to say, and I think these movies that you pick have a lot to say. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into discussing. I want to, of course, before we ever do before we actually get into discussions about the movie, I have to introduce you all to the filmmaker, since we've never talked about this man before. I've never heard of this man. When Charlie brought him up, I was like, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna be real with you, bro. I'm not that well tuned with my colonizer. Okay, I don't know about Spanish. I know Almodovar. I love Almodovar.
Yeah,
I love him a lot. I know Buñuel." But Buñuel isn't even what's called Spanish. He's French. What's it called? And I know a couple of literature from Spain. That's it. That's how much I know about my about my colonizer. And honestly, it's most out of personal preference that I don't really like to go into getting into my colonizer. But I'll watch your movie. But I've never heard of Jose Garcia Berlanga. But we'll go ahead and talk about him today. So, Jose Garcia Berlanga was born in March. I'm sorry, I was about to give you my birthday. June 12th, 1921. And sadly passed November 13th, 2010. Spanish director from Valencia. He's a Spanish director from Valencia, Spain. And he started off his studies by studying philosophy, but in 1947 he decided to make a drastic change in his career and decided to go to film school in Madrid. His debut was in 1951 with Juan Antonio Bardem as the actor in the film. The film was called The Happy Couple. And then after that, he directs more films, including this one that we're talking about today, called El Verdugo. And he becomes a prominent director in Spain, next to, of course, Luis Buñuel, who was directing a lot of movies in Spain at the time as well. And he was mostly one of the biggest prominent directors after the Spanish Civil War. He pretty much maneuvered a lot of censors with his very witty and subtle techniques of writing and filming. So a lot of the things that you think that he'd be censored for in these movies, funny enough, he wasn't censored for it.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this movie, is that it is a film that escaped a Francoist censor. And you were talking earlier about how you couldn't, when you were looking at this movie, you couldn't find like official release date, and I think that's like, or not necessarily like an official release date so much as like an opening day, like,
yeah, just like information about,
yeah.
the movie,
And I think that was partially to do with the fact that it sort of just squeaked past the censors.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this is considered like a classic of Spain, like.
Yeah.
You talked about Almodovar specifically earlier.
Yeah.
But
hold on.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Lyric.
But I'll keep talking. You're good. Don't worry about it, bud.
I'm so sorry, man. Let's go ahead and get back into that. Wonderful. The magic of editing will clear that up for us in post.
All right. Yeah, we'll fix that up later.
Yeah.
We'll fix that up.
So just continue on with your thoughts. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. You're fine. I specifically like Berlanga's work because of his connection to Almodovar. In a lot of interviews, Almodovar talks about his connection to this is. I should also mention that this was a film that was recommended to me, much like Underground, by a dear professor, Daniel Centeno at the University of Houston. Absolutely incredible professor. Just an incredible writer and a very, very intriguing presence on cinema. Everything he's ever recommended me or shown me, I've very much enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But that this I think that Spanish cinema has has a very through figures like Buñuel and then later Almodovar has a very cognizant presence in the American mind. And I think that guys like Berlanga never really, this period of Spanish filmmaking specifically, never really coming to the U.S. because it gets very heavily censored. The stuff that's coming out of America in the 1960s and 1970s tends to be really, really good. So a lot of people aren't studying a lot of this stuff, when I think that this is an incredibly interesting piece of art right now because of its deeply tied fascist criticism.
Yeah. So I had a couple of other things I had to read off here. So
yeah, for sure.
He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film in 1961 for his film Plácido, and then in 1968 he was head of the jury for the Berlin International Film Festival.
Yeah.
So that's that. We just discussed it right now, and it's kind of a way of introducing the film to you all. This film, I did not have a lot of information about. And once again, and it's going to be one of our talking points, I think we can't talk about a big prominent filmmaker in Spain without discussing Francoist Spanish Phalange, without discussing that, and because of that, a lot of these information is very scarce because of, information that was just either censored or was just not
part of Francoist record keeping. Yeah. Anyone that was considered, it's just part of living under fascism. Anyone that's considered transgressive, deviant, anything like this are heavily censored and just end up sort of falling by the wayside when it comes to art's creation.
Yeah. So the only thing I had here for information for you all, the final scene is influenced by the real execution of Pilar Prades Esposito. And also, just for a little bit of a fun fact for you guys, Berlanga also was one of the many people in Francoist Spain that were exiled from their country.
Yeah.
Like let's go Federico Garcia Lorca being one of those as well, who was actually, I believe Garcia Lorca was executed by the regime.
Yes.
So also I found something really interesting here about Berlanga. Apparently, he was forced. Not forced. It was basically a blackmail to go into the army, the Blue Division, because either that or his father was going to be in prison for being a Republican soldier. And also, just to remind you all, Republican in Spanish in Spain at the time is very different from the American Republican Party. So that was something interesting that I kind of read up on there when I was doing a little bit of research for this film and this filmmaker. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and start discussing El Verdugo, the Executioner, from the year 1963, from Jose Garcia Berlanga. Charlie.
Yes.
You got into it a little bit, bro. But so most importantly, why did you switch this movie why did you switch Beanpole? Why did you switch this one for Beanpole?
Okay, so the reason I switched this with Beanpole is I love Beanpole. It's a great movie. Mm-hmm. I would really like for you to have our and I think your friend Andrew Norton on potentially to discuss that movie. I think that or knowing him, he'd probably bust that out because he loves that movie.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like it was my movie to discuss. I mean, I showed it. I love that movie. I really enjoy it. But I picked this movie because I think that this is closer to the kind of film that I want to end up discussing in the long term, which is social criticism through film. And what Kantemir Balagov now, an incredible, there's sort of, I think you could sort of bring this into a more recent discussion with Norton if you decide to go down that road. Balagov is now directing the HBO miniseries for The Last of Us with Pedro Pascal. We found that out today.
And Bella Ramsey.
Yeah, so huge. Now this guy's potentially looking at exploding in the American scene because HBO has been doing. HBO is the hot new ticket item. I mean, it's back to being as cool as it was in the 90s and 80s, which is awesome.
Without all the porn. Without the porn.
That's fucked up. Why would they take it away? But all that aside, I think that this constantly when I see discussions on this film online in terms of like people who like and discuss black comedies as means of social change and discussion, I see this being talked about as a good entry point into Polish black comedy and Czechoslovakian black cinema, which are two periods of cinema that I find incredibly interesting. I also deeply love Pedro Almodovar as both, and Almodovar cites this and Buñuel as his two big films, as his two big guys in Spain, the people that he pulls from the most when it comes to his origins. He talks about seeing some of Berlanga's films, rescreenings of them in cinemas, in an interview, which I thought was really powerful.
Honestly, I saw that. I saw that throughout this film, mainly because a lot of what Almodovar makes is very talk-based, like it's very dialogue-driven. And I could tell throughout a lot of this movie that I was like, oh yeah, no, this is right up Almodovar's sleeve, because a lot of his films kind of follow this same type of structure, where also like some of his films, are kind of like are funny in a sense as well,
Yeah.
And they have that very Spanish comedy as well. Like, and I was finding that throughout this, but thanks for choosing this one. Also, thanks for giving up Beanpole for Nordy, because
I think when he comes on, if you guys decide to pursue something like that, that'll be a much better discussion for you guys to have, because I think that is to him the movie that got him into movies. Yeah. So he's very passionate about the whole discussion. Where this is something that's much more interesting to me. Yeah. But I think that the comparison with Almodovar and Almodovar's sort of what he pulls from this movie are very, very present, even down to the shot styles, because the film Berlanga. So every when you're talking about Buñuel, you have to talk about how Buñuel shoots. Buñuel is a master. Buñuel's shots are very, very. They're some of the most iconic in cinema. But Berlanga is way more interested in writing and technique. So his movies are shot way more traditionally, and this movie looks like just like a generic 1960s comedy. It's shot very basically, and it's shot it looks like a soap opera at times, which is one of the things that I really I love about some of Almodovar stuff, is just that how soapy he gets. There's like two really, really pretty shots in this. Or there's a couple really pretty shots in this movie. It's all very like traditional looking.
Yeah, it's very traditional, very naturalistic lighting. There was one I remember in this one that I really loved. It was this like kind of like a medium shot, but you had some candles, like the what's it called, the smoke was coming out from the candles because they had been put out, and it was kind of darkish, and you just had like like chest up of this girl's head, but it's not so like a close-up. It's a medium shot. It's pretty far, and it was very, very beautiful shot that was there. I like that one. I also liked the shot, the one that's the background here on our video format. I like that one as well, but
some of the shots in the caves in Las Palmas and Gran Canaria is another. Are some really there's some interesting shots in this movie, but it is not one of those. It is not a movie that I would say suffers for being. I think that like its writing is what you're coming for, because it's very, very, very dry and very, very black.
So, without further ado, I think we cannot proceed this conversation without talking about Spanish Phalange. So, yes. Spanish Falange, or Francoist Spain, was basically the years that Francisco Franco was ruling over, as we like to call, a caudillo, a dictator, from 1939 to 1975. Which, by the way, the United States were fine being allies with Franco at the time. They were okay with it. They said, nah, we ain't got anything to worry about. Like, he's friends with me, and I'm good. You know, we can be friends. It's all good. Yeah.
The only time we have a problem with fascism is when it's trying to take over the whole world.
The whole world.
When it's just an established dictator, we're happy even setting them up, like Pinochet in Chile.
Yeah. So, this period was very well known for rampant, executions of people like homosexuals, communists, and other type of people that were deemed unnecessary in the society that they were building. Also, now if you're one of those who believe that, like, oh, I mean, this guy's been dead, I'm pretty sure his supporters are dead too, since they're mostly old people. Nah. There's a lot of young people that still believe that Franco's politics and thought process very much resonate with them. And I've seen many videos of a lot of people from over there still waving those damn flags. So
yeah.
It
is still very present.
Still very present. Still very present, even after he's been dead for freaking like 36 years now. 36 years, bro. Yeah. But for 36 years, he had been ruling, and during this time, of course, what comes with fascism is the suppression of art, the suppression of ideas and free thinking ideas. That happened a lot with films that would be censored because of the art, and you could not talk about movies like this without discussing the heavy hand that the government had in censoring movies that were speaking out against them, or speaking ill will, or trying to just be basically what it's supposed to be, art.
Yeah, I mean, at its most simplistic, this film is a criticism of capital punishment. It's like very simply just that. And Berlanga, in an interview, said that he was interested in making films about the traps that people fall into in society. And I think that is a very, very good way of describing Jose Luis's position in the film. It's just a guy who ends up falling into something that seems like it could be okay, and then it ends up essentially, at what point are you a man, and at what point are you an institution of the state?
Exactly.
Which is the big question in this movie. And one that I really love is like, when do you cease to exist for your own benefit and begin to exist for the state's benefit? And that sounds very like I don't know, corporatist maybe, but there's a lot to this movie. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, bro. No. You're fine. But yeah, there's a lot of this film that what it's criticizing is, let's be honest, the government making us do their deed. The government is making us do what the government doesn't have the balls to do. Like, if Franco really wanted, if Franco had the balls to do what these men are being put to do, I'm pretty sure Franco wouldn't have been a dictator for too long when he had to actually do the dirty work that he was ordering.
Yeah, when you want to, I think this movie, I recently rewatched Werner Herzog's Into the Abyss, which is another sort of interesting discussion on capital punishment. That is it's based in Houston, Texas, so there's a sort of interest there, proximity wise. But this is all to say, interesting. But in it, they discussed the guy who was the officer at the Walls unit, the person that was tasked with administering lethal injections.
Yeah.
And when they talked to him, he was just hired as like a guard, essentially, and then eventually got moved there. And it was just like sort of a profession that he ended up falling into to make ends meet, which is so fucking crazy to think about. Excuse my language. It's just how you can become an institution of the state in the sense that you are administering legalized death to an extent to people who, you know, regardless of the crimes that they or perceived crimes that they could have committed, whether they're found guilty or not. It's so crazy to think about, because that's, you know, that's what people fight against every day is to take the idea of being able to take someone's life from people. They don't want you don't want people running around being able to kill each other willy-nilly, because that's like how society disingenuates and like falls apart, is when there's this lack of care between people and this lack of empathy. Yet, you know, here's a guy who's so deeply empathetic that in the final scene he has to be dragged like the accused to the garage, where he then has to execute a man that he doesn't want to do. You know, he has to take the life of another man who's taken the life of someone else, in this case, but do so completely unwillingly.
Yeah, I was going to say that in this film, our protagonist, he didn't set out to become an executioner. Like, it fell on him. It fell on him, and he was like,
"No." He meets a girl, and he's like, "You're pretty. Let's have sex." And then her dad comes home and is like, "Congratulations, you're marrying my daughter now, and part of this tradition is to carry on my legacy."
Yeah, and that was like, so basically, this whole time we've kind of been discussing about what the film is about for you all. Usually I say like, "Hey, it's like this and that," but yeah. So like, first of all, that's the funny part to me in this film. You can't even fuck a girl without having to marry them in that time, and then having to take on the dirty job like her freaking dad is gonna give up. So now it's like, I never spent my years of my 30 years old, I think he is in this film, looking up to becoming an executioner. No, never, ever. I have sex with this girl for one time, and now I gotta marry her and take this damn job. And throughout this film, he believes that, like, oh, you know, I mean, I took it, whatever, you know, like, I'll marry her. It's whatever, right? And and he's like, I'm never going to get I'm never going to have to execute, because let's be real, homeboy over here is telling her that, like, yeah, I've only, you know, executed a couple people. Like, it barely happens. Like, you get pardons in there, and, you know, it doesn't happen that much.
Yeah. So in the time, so 1950, the establishment of Francoist Spain to 1974, there are 65 men and 2 women executed in the whole of Spain. So, you know, 24 years. I don't know a comparative length of time in the in the U.S. and I mean, bearing in mind that this is a discussion where Spain outlaws completely abolishes capital punishment in 1995.
Yeah.
So, and we still have it going on.
We still have it. Yeah. So, you know, once again, we like you're saying, you're just becoming an institution of the state. You are no longer a human. You are somebody who needs to do this job. You cannot do anything else but that. And when we return back from break, we're gonna keep on discussing this film. And let's go ahead and get into this, guys. Let's go ahead and get you guys set up with the break here. And when we come back, we will continue on with our discussion of Jose Garcia Berlanga's Executioner. Hey, I'm Raul Alejandro Mendoza, and this is
Jabril Newton.
And we are the hosts of High Flyer Radio. And finally, pro wrestling has come back to the Nerdcore podcast feed in the form of a show hosted by Jabril and I. And we talk about everything and anything in the pro wrestling world on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nothing's off limits. Whatever you guys want to talk about, if it's from AEW to SmackDown to Raw to NXT, nothing's off the table. We can talk about it.
We're going to talk all about it. And if you can get it a day early, you should go to the patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the tiers on there so you can get this show and a lot of shows days early before anybody else gets to hear it. But enough talking about it. We'll go ahead and see you there at the squared circle.
Oh, yeah.
Don't tap out. Tune in.
Tune in.
Hello, 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 guys and gals, and you're listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore. I am your host, Daniela Nunez, and along with my amazing co-host, Ashley Garcia, we discuss many things like social impact, pop culture, political realms, and any controversy surrounding the Nerdverse. Tune in and listen to us bi-weekly on the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we will love to chat and hear your thoughts on our wonderful show. And thank you again for listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore.
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, the Nerdy Chicano, and I am the host of The Impaired Files. The Impaired Files is a interview show brought to you every Thursday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. And I interview people such as filmmakers, content creators on YouTube, and podcasters like Colton Geschwander. And if you want to listen to that early, a whole week early, all you got to do is go to the Patreon and pledge to the $1 tier. And if you want to listen to it with the general public, then go to Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/the Nerdcore. And the case is closed, but it's not classified. See you guys there.
Hey, it's Ashley from the Gamer Core. You may remember me from such episodes as Big Screen Mess, Mo Money Mo Platforms, and Brad Can Read. Tune in weekly as I blab with my co-hosts Raul the Nerdy Chicano and Brad the Random Germ about the latest news in gaming and gush over what we're playing at the moment. Oh yeah, and we got the deals too. Keep up with the latest deals in gaming and what's happening as I mediate Brad and Raul fighting like a married couple. Will Death Stranding ever come out? Will Cyberpunk 2077 live up to the hype? Is a next gen worth a $500 console price tag? And has there ever been a movie adaptation of a video game that's been done right? It's all on the Gamer Core podcast, everywhere where podcasts are.
Hey guys, this is Brad, aka Young Yoda. Raul said I had to make an ad, so that's what I'm doing. It's supposed to be for Unstructured, but as you guys know, you can freaking catch me everywhere when it comes to this podcast feed. You can find me on the Nerd Cores, on Gamer Cores, on Nerdy Chicanos sometimes when I get lost. But for this particular one, I want you guys to go check out Unstructured. The Raul gave me free reign to do whatever I want to do. I don't know what he was thinking. So go hear me talk about LeBron James and Taco Tuesday, vaping, so many other freaking weird topics that chimichangas, that's a good one. Shout out to Deadpool. And yeah, I guess this is the end of the ad. So if you guys want to find me, you can find me all over the place on this podcast feed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And nerd up.
Hey everyone, I'm Raul.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the hosts of the Nerdcore podcast. The podcast that talks that nerd. Not on this ad, right?
Not
and
on this one.
we come to you every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. On the Mondays, we talk the news. That's the box office, the news of the week, and your trailer talk if there is any. And on Tuesday, we have our theme review. And on Saturday, you have a Saturday morning review, usually movies that have come out in the week or anything we want to talk about. Right, Brett?
Exactly. Whatever we want to talk about, this is our show. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen.
We're the flagship show, the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we can be found everywhere you can listen to podcasts like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. So if you want to talk that nerd stuff with us every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, make sure you tune in. And Brad?
Young Yoda out.
We're back on the Cinema Condition as we continue our discussion about Jose Garcia Berlanga's The Executioner, 1963. Thank you guys so much for listening to those ads. If you do listen to them, I know that I just love listening to those for like the thousands of times that I've had to put those on. But
the gaming one needs to be updated because
let's be real here, a lot of those need to be updated.
the gaming one really badly. Will Death Stranding ever come out? I'm like, it came out a long time ago. And 2077 did not live up to the hype.
Yeah. But you can go and listen to more of those podcasts on the Nerdcore podcast feed by going to anchor.fm/thenerdcore. Guys, please go and leave a rate review on your Apple Podcast app or any of the apps that allow you to leave rate and reviews for for fellow podcasts. It really does help us out a lot with trying to get more people to come out, check the show out, or like when we try to get a little bit of sponsors, they usually want to know our numbers and stuff. So we got to send out those to them.
Engage with the content.
Engage with the content, guys, please. Also, you can go and rate and review the Cinema Condition podcast feed on as well Apple Podcasts, and do that. I've had to make this announcement a couple of times, and I'm probably going to stop after the next one. But the Cinema Condition Season 2 will not be premiering on the Nerdcore podcast feed. It's going to stay on its own feed right here, guys. So if you want to be listening to Season 2, this is where you got to be. This is where you got to be. You got to be listening to it on this feed. And, of course, if you want to see both of our beautiful faces, Charlie's and I, you have to be on the Patreon at patreon.com/thenerdcore, CORPS. At the $1 tier, you get the video versions for all of our shows, and you get to watch them live. And you can see moments like a couple of minutes before, or like 20 minutes before right now.
You can engage with all of the fun content that comes with living and working in a home office. It's so great.
It's so great.
I recommend it every day.
Yeah. But we're back. We're going to finish discussing this here. We're going to keep going through some of these other topics we had in here. Of course, you pretty much segued into what I wanted to go into before we went on break. The death penalty, capital punishment. It was outlawed in Spain in 1995.
So it completely abolished in every sense in Spain in 1995. The actual last execution in Spain, 1978.
1978.
So 17 years after this film.
Yeah. Here in the United States, in many states in this country, we are still allowing the death penalty.
In our great state, we are still allowing the death penalty.
In our great state of undisclosed state, we are still allowing the death penalty.
Of a large state that is now home to another billionaire.
Yeah. We still allow the death penalty to be used in this state. We basically allow legal executions in this country. And let's be real here. We've heard a lot of the stories about death row. We've heard that a lot of the people that are on death row are wrongly put in death row because there's not substantial evidence to actually get them out of death row. And you're basically legally murdering people for crimes they probably did not commit. And
I mean, regardless of the nature of the guilty versus non-guilty, it's more the idea that a state in any form, which is to say an entity composed of people that can make a judgment as severe as whether or not you get to live or you get to die.
Yeah.
When we've spent all this time fighting and creating a system of governmental laws to prevent people from doing exactly that.
Maybe it's the fact that as much as we tell people to act good, that's not all that that's not all that we can do. Maybe it's about bringing up social programs and being able to.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's shown. Studies have shown countless times that death penalties do nothing to deter people from reviolating, or even to deter people from committing those acts to begin with.
Yeah.
That other forms of social program, other forms of governmental aid, governmental assistance, governmental oversight do more to curb things like systemic poverty and social stratification. That in turn does more to prevent violence than a government intrusion and a government creation like the death penalty.
Yeah. So, and in this film, it's 100% a criticism about that. It's
Absolutely.
First of all, on the surface, it's a criticism about the employee having to do it. About these people who this is not what they want to do. They have no. What's it called? In this job is there ever a part where this man can say, "I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it." No, he is forced. He needs to execute this man.
the other problem is just like that there's no justice being served.
No.
Like he is not a victim of this man's of anyone's miscreations or like misdeeds or misconduction. Instead, he is just this person put into a position that is then forced to enact this position, so that he can essentially maintain his social status.
Yeah.
Which, is not really like, it's not like he buys ice cream and he lives in a house and has a mattress. Like, it's not like he's going out there and setting the world on fire, but this man is committing like a cardinal sin. And at the time, it's important to still remember that Franco was like a very, very avid and vocal Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And so this, I mean, this is like what this is like what Christ argues about in everything, is the argument that people should not conduct violence on one another. Yet here you have a man who is, this supposed good Christian being forced by a state to commit the ultimate sin solely so that he can survive. And what happens when the state decides that you no longer need to survive in any form? So.
And then, of course, you're incarcerated, and then you're treated as a it gets brought up just a bit, but the way that when he goes over there to have to conduct the execution, and Jose Luis is being told, like, you should beat the inmate. It's better that way. Like, it's easier for you to get more comfortable. And it's like when you're incarcerated, you're treated like a showboat. Like you're being paraded somehow. Like, hey, come and see the guy you're gonna kill. Like, come and see, like, in a way how fucked up that is, and how that doesn't even, that's not something that's only limited to fascist governments. That's not that is
no. This is, I think the thing about this is it's very much a criticism not just of fascism, but rather of totalitarianism as a whole, and of state sanctioned and state justified violence and systems of and systems of dictatorship and apparatus of dictatorship. No, this film is like very much not interested in the coat of paint so much as it is the system that it's attacking, which I think is what ends up making it more powerful and making it more long lasting. Because I think that if you, and there are other movies that I want to talk about later, and potentially stuff that we can look at that I think continues with this sentiment and continues with the idea that systems are built by people and then misconstructed by others and completely lose their value when they're not existing to serve the people that are most susceptible.
Yeah. And throughout this film, you see that, man.
Absolutely.
And it, of course, it's coded in this like wonderful black comedy that you're watching, and it's like, and there's a lot of really funny parts in this movie that I was just like, I was just like really, getting into, and really having fun with. But at the end of the day, man, like this is a very fucked up kind of.
No, it's a very, very dark movie because you have this like deep seated anxiety over like the idea that you will eventually witness or have to witness this character lose their humanity by taking another person's humanity. It's like something so incredibly dark and incredibly dissociative.
Yeah.
And I think that Berlanga does a really good job of balancing this incredibly dark situation with very, very, it's very funny. It's a very funny movie.
And you see also the way that it corrupts those who come before you. Because, throughout this whole movie, the father of his wife, I don't even know how to say it in English. I know in Spanish, suegro, it's, father-in-law. His father-in-law the whole time is like, I know it rarely happens. You ain't got anything to worry about. It's fine. it's called, even somehow convinces him, like, hey, I'm going to come with you. I'm going to make sure you're going to be okay. Like, well, with me, there's no way you're going to do this. It's okay. Just resign. And what's up? He gets there and he's like, no, baby, it's time. No, toughen up. No, you go do your job. Go do your job. And it's like,
he's like groomed.
Yeah, he basically grooms this man to becoming a state-sanctioned killer. Like it's just how fucked up that is. Like,
no, I love the line where he's like, oh, I freaked out my first time too. Like, it's like the second to last line in the movie. He's like, oh yeah, I freaked out my first time too. It's just like so funny to watch. I mean, this is like very Brechtian in a way. It relates a lot to specifically Brecht's Man versus Man, but it's the idea that a person loses and becomes completely malleable when placed into a system that like is designed to strip them of their humanity. So then they come out and they're like a completely changed person, yet looks exactly like this person that went in.
Because at the end, he's different. He is obviously very, very affected by it. He doesn't want to talk to his wife at all. He's kind of he's kind of what's it called? Actually, kind of going through all of what he just did. He's trying to realize.
He has the money. But he has the money.
And that's the way they get you to like, well, you know what? I might just have to keep doing this job because it's paying real well, even though I'm freaking killing people legally. Like,
and then I mean it ends on a shot of a bunch of like wealthy white people on a boat.
Yeah.
So it's the idea that these people are, you know, forced into this system to eventually achieve some form of class and social stratification, when, you know, the system asks you to do one of the most dehumanizing things you could possibly do as a person, which is to take the life of another person. Yet, hey, the money's good, and you know.
Yeah, and like I said before, you know, these governments, the ones who are, you know, the rulers who order these, you know, they don't have to do it, you know, they're just gonna order it, you know, and you're gonna have to do it. But the way they get you is by like, but don't worry, I'm gonna compensate you. I'm gonna give you this large sum of money, so that way I can further convince you that, you know what, this is the reward for having to do this. This is the way, and having to, you know, remind you that, like, do you want to make sure that you're not in the street? Do you want to make sure that you can eat? Well, guess what? You're gonna have to go kill. You're gonna have to go kill, and you're gonna have to keep, because guess what? What would have happened if he didn't do that? If he resigned that day, he would have lost the
everything.
house.
Literally. I mean, literally, he was in danger of losing everything, his entire house.
Once again, just a reminder, all for having sex with one woman and having her father cock block and come in at the time.
But also, I mean, like, sometimes life just be like that. You're like, I wasn't doing anything else, so...
Yeah. Which, by the way, I was saying one of my favorite scenes was that scene, and the dad being like, how dare you? You're naked in front of me. He's like, calm down. I'm not naked. I've got my robe on.
But the scene that made me lose my shit the first time I saw it is when he's like, I'd like to marry your daughter, and his pants just drop down to his ankles. And you're like, okay, like people knew what was funny. Like,
yeah.
And that's the thing, is like this, I think that there's a lot of humor in this that now will reach an audience more than it did. Because I think we like black humor a lot more than like my dad's generation did. That's not true. My dad's favorite movie is Harold and Maude, and that's a blackest comedy. Yeah. But like more than my mom does, because my mom's just like, I'm gonna watch BBC shows all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's a cathartic feeling of being able to laugh at our pain. You know, laugh at the things that happen to us, and you know, like. I bring up Underground because Underground was black comedy. Like, literally, Underground is basically this movie just pouring out to you how badly they would love to still be a country, and how badly they were forced against each other and had to fight against each other. But it's coded in all these like funny things and like, you know, whimsical humor and whimsical actions, and it's like, Yeah, but like at the beyond the surface, you have like all these people who are suffering because their country isn't a country anymore. They didn't separate from everybody.
that's what Costa Rica does so well.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Tom of the Gypsies. It's literally about the traumas of growing up in a post-Soviet country.
Yeah,
and as a cultural and political minority, as a someone as divested as like the Roma people and the Romani people, and what does that look like? What is this? But yet it's treated with this. I think Costa Rica does this.
Yeah.
I think maybe this is more towards Buñuel than Berlanga, but he has this sort of magical sense. Have you ever seen? This movie reminds me a lot of Buñuel's film Los Olvidados. Have you seen that? I
have not seen. You're gonna get mad at me. I've never seen anything from Buñuel. I have not.
Really?
Oh wait, never mind. Ocean Andalou and La Age d'Or.
Yeah, the Age of Gold. Those are like his two really, really early films.
Yeah.
Those are like his art stuff.
Yeah, I have what's it called? I have Belle de Jour on my watch list. I have like a bunch of. I did want to go through a period of the stuff that he made in Mexico and all that.
You should really bump Los Olvidados up. I think that it might end up being one of your. I think you'll like it a lot. I've seen it twice. I was shown it by my professor friend. And I ended up showing it and then another one of my friends who ended up seeing it and really, really, really connecting with it. I think that his Mexico stuff will have a special. Buñuel has a certain magical quality where he's able to go somewhere and just really imbibe with the ideas. Yeah. So his Mexican stuff is really influenced by his time in Mexico, less so than him being like, I'm going to make a Spanish film in Mexico because this is where I am right now.
Yeah, and I very much see how it in the way that the comedy is infused here is very much the comedy kind of gets left off once you kind of get to that island and like everything. Which, by the way, what's it called when they get to the beach and how they ask him to take pictures of the two girls and his wife like, oh, now you know other languages, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This is all like so funny when taken in stride with the fact that he like can't read.
There to kill him.
And he like can't read, so he's like, I'm gonna write down some numbers.
And hopefully you can like find out where I live so you can send me the photo.
Yeah, because he's like struggling to read and he's like, he almost finished high school. No,
but once again, those are the people, the uneducated people. Well, not uneducated, but the ones with low education. Those are the ones who are sought out by the government because they're like, oh, it's easy to just show you a dollar bill here, a couple of dollar bills.
No, because there's you have this like a dollar is more to those people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then and that's the problem is like this ideology was able to take and really totalitarianism was able to take hold when you had a population that was dejected, disconnected, and uneducated. And that's where you begin to see a lot of these problems return. Is like, okay, so the quality of living has gotten better, education has gotten better. Like, why are we still governing and identifying with these outdated systems? I mean, because this is 1960. This is now 60 years ago. So it's something that you take into consideration. I mean, it doesn't the criticism of the government in this film, criticism of government this film has, doesn't solely extend to
the period,
the period, but also capital punishment.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a system of I think Berlanga said it best when he used the term little traps. Because these are still things that go on. I mean, think about just any form of financial compensation that's given for sort of labor as a whole is sort of a metric by which we get into the theory of value of labor, and that's Marxian economics and
Yeah.
that's a whole other discussion that I don't think I would have to like eat gravel and then do that, because I don't want to do that anymore.
No, and like the last example I'll go into, and I'll let you kind of wrap up when we need to finish up, but it's the way you see what goes on with the military industrial complex, and the way that it's it preys upon black and brown poor communities to take them, to have them do their dirty work, and in return they are compensated. And what's called, I'll go ahead and talk about, and I'll go ahead and talk as somebody.
Would you like a Dodge Charger?
Would you like a Charger or what's it called, Dodge Ram, big pickup truck? Yeah. But
you want a Camaro, a truck, or a Charger?
And at the time, it sounds great, and you're like, oh, you're promised all these, and guess what? According to a lot of the people who've gone, who I've talked with, or just that one video that kind of went viral that you guys saw, a lot of people were promised a lot of things. They didn't get shit. Guess what they come back with? A Dodge Camaro, some PTSD, and we'll see you on your way out. That's it. Like that's all they come back with. And
this is another interesting discussion, is the idea of post-traumatic stress disorder and the continuation of the trauma of lived experience.
Which
for people
which our character will probably have to deal with after this film ends. If we think about it, he's not going home high and mighty and like, what's it called, feeling real good, happy. No, he's disturbed.
I also think that it's so interesting how, I mean, this man is essentially a public servant. He is doing something that is required and asked by a government official. You know what I mean? So, and yet it brings up this. I mean, like, I did a historical study of a tradition that's based in Appalachia called sin eating. That's a carryover from a lot of older cultures, namely Irish, Scottish, and some German and Polish, where it's the concept that when someone dies unexpectedly, bread or another food item can be placed on top of the body. It can exhume their sins from them, and then someone can eat those sins and carry those sins with them so that the person dies a clean death. It carries a lot in history, but this is like the same idea that you see present in this film, is the idea that this person, by doing something that's asked of them by the government, by being like literally a governmental institution and a governmental identity, and enacting violence upon someone at the government's behest, then becomes dirtied by it. So much so that he leaves his bag while the guy's like drinking his coffee, and the guy's like, I don't even want to like drink my coffee anymore, because like it was around the guy who it's a bag with his garrots in it, which might be weird for an American, but it's just a strangulation device essentially. And it was how Spain chose to do. I also love the jokes about how uncivilized other cultures are because of their forms of killing people. Where he's like, yeah, stick your finger in a light bulb. It's only 12 volts. They pulse like 1200 through you. And you're like, yeah, no one was ever saying that like the electric chair was like, I mean, of course, at the time it was billed as like civilized, but now, you think about that and you think about frying someone to death. Think about how unsuccessful it was as a killing machine because of how many people, how badly you could fuck up an execution. The guillotine, many people don't know this, but when do you think the last execution by guillotine was?
The early 1900s.
1977 was the release of it was the release of Star Wars. Same day. I want to say it was the same day, but it was the same year. I know it was the same year.
It took us that fucking long. It took
the French that long. I mean, we're still doing it. Yeah. That was the last execution by guillotine.
I'm sure that in this country they still do hanging, right? There's many countries that still do the hanging.
I don't. I think most. No, we do lethal injection. I don't know of any place that still does hanging. I know. I don't know of any like. I know that Iraq does hanging. I know that. But like most of your like France.
Yeah.
France it's outlawed. England it's outlawed. Spain obviously now it's outlawed. So this is like, I mean, we're one of the last countries, to keep doing this, in the sense of like, imperial powers.
Okay, well, I'm looking it up here. It says that Washington and New Hampshire are still
doing
are still
execution
by hanging. Yeah.
Yeah. So learn something new every day. What a surprise! I wonder. Washington. I know in Washington you can still get it by firing squad if you ask.
God damn, dude. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. It sounds. It's no surprise. It's no surprise. But anything else you're gonna want to bring up before we wrap up here?
No, I think I mean, like, I'm interested to hear your final thoughts on the film, because I really do enjoy this film. It's not a film that I think that I sit back and I'm like, wow, it's a perfect film, but I think it's a film that asks a lot of very interesting questions and brings a lot of interesting societal critique to the foray, which is what I think good film does. So yeah, I'm more interested to hear you. I assume you enjoyed it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I did. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Liked it a lot. But
it's also really short. It's like 90 minutes exactly.
Yeah, it's like an hour. So. Yeah, which, by the way, thank you for that. A big step up from your. From last.
Yeah, I try. I don't want to be the guy who comes on here and be like, let's watch Satin Tango, and you're like, that's an 8-hour movie, Charlie. I hate you.
For Satin Tango, we would have to do a two-parter. We would have to do a two-parter.
That would be too much.
Yeah,
but also, have you seen Satin Tango?
No, I haven't. I'm not gonna.
We would have to do a one-parter for Satin Tango, because not a lot happens in that movie.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Very long shot times.
Yeah. So
visually beautiful.
Visually beautiful. I bet. I think it's the kind of movie that I would rather just have on muted in the background. And
effect.
Yeah, but no plans on watching Satin Tango anytime soon. But
oh, come on.
Hey man, if you only knew how much I record. Taking 7 hours.
I know, bro. I see you. I'm seeing all those little podcasts that you guys have. I was like, damn. He goes off. You'd be making movies, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Podcasts. No, I'm happy to be here, Raul. I'm always happy when you ask me to come on.
Yes,
I
sir.
like watching movies and hearing your opinion. I like making and watch weird shit.
Yep. And that's why I thank you for coming on again for the Cinema Condition. As always, I want to thank you so much, man. Season 2, your first pick for season 2. He has 2 more picks that he will not talk about. We will just wait until we come back to talk about them. So you'll see Charlie in the near future.
You're prepared to see me again, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. No, man, I love it.
No. I'm talking for your viewers.
Your viewers,
you and we have fun.
We have fun, yeah.
But this is awful.
But you can't leave. You can't leave without
my next pick.
Yeah, the wonderful choice that will either piss someone off or what's it called, make us happy. Because it will make us happy because, like, hey, yeah, we get to talk about this movie. Let's go. But it'll piss someone off because they'll be like, hey, I wanted to get that movie.
So Raul, I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you a fun question. Do you want to watch something that you will have absolutely never seen anything like it? Or do you want to watch something that's a little more traditional but a lot of fun?
I want to watch whatever you want to make me watch, because this is about your pick. But if I had a say in it, I want you to give me the Costa Rica effect. I want you to introduce me to something I would never want to watch.
So we're going to keep going down this path then, because the other movie I was going to pick was Bill Forsyth's Local Hero, which is a great movie and a movie that I really love. It's really cool. The soundtrack is great. It's a lot of fun. But you picked the weird one, so we're going to watch Juraz Her's 1969's The Cremator, which is a movie that I literally want you to, like, you have to understand this movie. You have to understand this before you go into this movie. This movie was made in 1969 and locked in a vault for 40 years. Yes, people. It didn't get like a big showing, and then the Czechoslovakian government was like, put that away. And so then then now it's gotten this like big re-release. It's on the Criterion channel. It's one of the it's Doctor Strangelove. It's Doctor Strangelove if it got locked in a vault for 40 years.
That's well, I thank you for choosing this.
It's awesome.
Well, that will be Charlie's pick for next season of the Cinema Condition, along with probably 2 other movies that we'll discuss later behind the curtain about what he wants to pick.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
I want to thank you so much, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love you, man. Yeah, I love you, man. I love having you on. You want to let them know where they can find you?
Yeah. So I said it earlier. But if you're still listening, I'm on Letterboxd and Twitter as KORKARLEN Corcarlin. But yeah, just look me up there if you ever want to ask me anything interesting about movies or see what I'm watching. Check out my Letterboxd or just shoot me a DM on Twitter because I'm always happy to talk movies. But yeah.
And as always, you guys can find me at the Nerd Chicano on both Instagram and Twitter. You can look at my website for my photo and video work at raulemendoza.com. But most importantly, guys, I want you to just go and leave a rating review for this feed. And go and help us out. And stay tuned because I've been really, really thankful for all your support, guys. The second season has been fun. We've had a lot of really good people come back. We had a lot of interesting people come on and discuss some movies that I've been dying to talk about. I'll say this again. We're almost reaching the first 10 episodes of the season. I love talking about Wong Kar-wai's Fallen Angels on this show. And that movie I love that movie a lot. I love Wong Kar-wai. And I love that I got to talk about it with Aaron. So thank you all so much for making the first 10 episodes, hopefully the first 10 episodes of Cinema Condition a success, making them fun. And we will keep on going with the second season of the Cinema Condition as we continue on. And thank you, Charlie. We'll see you when you come back.
Raul, as always, you're the king.
Thank you, man. Thank you. As always, I thank you so much. And we will see you guys next week when we talk about another movie with another guest. I don't have an outro, guys, so I'm just going to have to say goodbye.
Bye.